Well, 30 Democrats have now called for Joe Biden to go. There are some who haven't said so publicly. There are some who have made their views clear to others. Chuck Schumer has said so publicly. Nancy Pelosi hasn't, for example. But Barack Obama has apparently made his views clear to friends and colleagues, and that has sort of seeped out, and his view on this is clear. Let's talk to John LeBoutillier, who is a former Republican member of the House of Representatives. John, good to talk to you. My goodness, things are moving at a rapid rate here. What do you think Biden stands down or says that he's going to not run for the nomination? When do you think that happens? Is that a given now, or has the tipping point been reached? Because one of his spokeswomen said earlier on today he's going nowhere.
Right. Well, until he does it, he hasn't done it. But I think it's inevitable, Peter, that he has to do it. The money is not coming into the campaign. His party is, very upset, not at him, but since the debate 3 weeks ago last night, they've been in utter turmoil because they've sadly come to the realization that he no longer can carry out the job of a candidate for president. He can probably be president for 5 more months, but he can't stand up there either in a debate or in an interview and rip apart the Donald Trump platform and performance.
And actually, you make a really good point there, John, because we've been in a situation in that debate, for example, we've seen a very different Donald Trump in the last 6 months or so, because all he has had to do is watch Biden do what he is doing in the debate. He barely had to criticise him. He said at one point, I'm not sure he knew what he was saying, but it sort of was done almost more in sorrow than in anger. And those who, I had a guest on earlier, a former Democratic field organiser for President Obama in his campaign in 2008, he was saying, I'll vote for any Democrat, whoever the Democrats are, whoever the Democratic candidate is for president. But actually, you've got to ask about the good of the country now. You've got to ask about whether you like Donald Trump or whether you think he's an awful person. You've got to ask whether President Biden, both now and for the next 4 years, is actually in a fit state to be president of the United States, which isn't exactly the most undemanding job ever.
Oh, exactly. So to me, we've heard this analogy. It's sort of like when your elderly parent shouldn't be driving anymore and you have that difficult discussion and take the keys away from mom or dad. Here, it's a little different, but it's sort of the same. Dad, Biden, isn't able to be a good candidate against a very beatable Donald Trump. That's what's frustrating the Democrats. They see this guy with all his baggage, Trump I'm talking about, all his baggage, his terrible platform that he has announced as Project 2025, his very lackadaisical speech last night. He is beatable by any decent Democrat who makes the case not only that the Democrats' record is pretty damn good in this country, the economy is good and all that, but that the Republicans are out of the mainstream. They are way out. They're way off to the far lunatic fringe. And I think any Democrat other than Biden could make that case.
Very, very interesting. Well, Donald Trump was was in Milwaukee yesterday. He gave a long speech, about 90 minutes, reflecting on the assassination attempt, of course, last week, almost exactly a week ago. And I just want to play a little clip, John, of what he was talking about. He said was going through his mind when someone tried to assassinate him. Let's play the clip.
When I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear, I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly. as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage.
What do you make of that? A slightly different Donald Trump to one. He's changed his views, well, maybe not his views, but certainly his approach in the last number of months. But really, that kind of very personal, this was going through my mind when this was happening kind of thing is not very Donald Trump, is it? And it shows perhaps how his life and his approach has been changed in the last week. John, what do you make of it?
Well, I thought he was very good about that, and I thank God he survived it. And, you know, that's a personal thing. Politically, it was good of him to talk that way about it and to praise the Secret Service and to thank God for saving him. That's all great. But then the rest of the speech, which was, as you said, 93 minutes long, an hour and 33 minutes. Guess what? That's an hour too long. Should have been 33 minutes. It was Castro and Khrushchev used to give these 5-hour speeches. This is insane to talk this much. And none of it was new. None of it was unifying for the country. And I don't think it's going to help them. We already have polling, not since last night, but during the week since the shooting, that it amazingly didn't give him a bump up in the polls at all. And we're watching something, Peter, that in my life we have never seen, where this guy is running again for president while the other party, they have the incumbent president being pressured by his party to drop out of the race with 4 months to go. I was alive and in high school, boarding school, and remember watching in 1968 when Lyndon Johnson addressed the country from the Oval Office about Vietnam.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, he reaches in his pocket, in his jacket, I'm not wearing a jacket, obviously, pulls out a piece of paper. He looks over here, I think at Lady Bird, but we didn't see her. And he reads this statement. Says, I will not be and will not accept.
I will not seek and will not accept. Yeah. Lady Bird was there. Claudia Jean Johnson was there in the Oval Office, and he did look at her. Robert Caro's biographies talk about that. I'm a complete LBJ nut. I'm a fan is the wrong word, but he's an interesting guy. But that was a really shocking moment for America, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so this is a little different. That one, LBJ, as you know, and some of your viewers know, was under huge assault because of the conduct of the Vietnam War. This time, it's a different thing. The party is telling Joe Biden, we love you, but you're too old and you got to get out. And that time with LBJ, they didn't love him anymore. They were really angry at him.
Yes, yes. Yes, it's a very interesting one. I just sort of more Trump sort of meat and drink, I suppose, to many of those who were there was about deportation and a deportation operation, the biggest one in the history of the US that he talked about. Let's just see again what he said last night.
The Republican platform promises to launch the largest deportation operation in the history of our country. Even larger than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower from many years ago. You know, he was a moderate, but he believed very strongly in borders. He had the largest deportation operation we've ever had. Tonight, America, this is my vow. I will not let these killers and criminals into our country. I will keep our sons and daughters safe. As we bring security to our streets, we will help bring stability to the world.
Will this bring stability to the world, do you think, John? Is this something that he sort of has to say, or does he mean it in terms of what he would do as president?
I don't know what he means. You know, with Trump, he says anything one day and then denies saying it the next day. But I think the Republican Party, the ones that were there, that convention, they love the red meat rhetoric of let's pack up all these people and throw them out of here. They're not thinking it through, how difficult it will be to find the people. What if there's an illegal alien here who's married to an American citizen? Are you going into their house and yanking the illegal out? How about, does that person have rights to go to a court to delay the thing? What about that person if they're working in a job somewhere? What about that company that has all these illegals working there? What about them? I mean, all this stuff is difficult. In order to do it right, they need to pass a law that was proposed 6 months ago, and it was going to get through the Senate with both parties agreeing to it until Trump stepped in and stopped it because he wanted chaos inside immigration. Here's the amazing thing. Trump was already president, right? He didn't deport as many people as Obama deported. And guess what? Biden has deported more than either Trump or Obama. And it doesn't seem to get much coverage.
The huge and important issue of immigration is one we're going to park just for a second, mainly because I want to talk about Hulk Hogan. I just want to play this rather strange, but nonetheless very amusing clip of the wrestler Hulk Hogan, who has been ripping off his shirt and declaring Trump mania.
But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Only in America. I mean, Donald Trump is 78, of course. Hulk Hogan, a mere slip of a lad at 70. John, what are your thoughts on this? Do you have any?
I do. And I think that what we saw over these 4 days, concluding last night, was the marketing of the Republican Party is aimed at white men without a college education, mostly over 40 years old.
And that's why in the case of Donald Trump and Hulk Hogan, orange man.
Yeah, but they're going sort of lower middle class, working class, uneducated white guys. Okay, fine, they're legitimate, they should vote. But what you're doing when you do that is, what about everybody else, especially women? They don't love this stuff. They hate hearing that this Republican Party wants to ban abortion. They want to ban it even in the case of rape and incest. They want to get rid of IVF. I mean, the things that they're advocating, the Republicans, I hate to say it because I'm a Republican and I'm not in favor of this stuff. I don't think it's a winning platform when the public knows about it.
Very interesting analysis there. John, thank you. John LeBoutillier, who's a former Republican member of the House of Representatives.